J-Lo was married to her first husband, Owani Noah, for only 11 months, but the short union caused years' worth of court appearances and drama, and it's still going on actually, even after over 2 decades. About $21 million have been thrown around over the years between all the involved parties. Noah, it seems, has worked in 2 major careers during his lifetime: entertainment and the restaurant scene. He met and married J-Lo when he was a waiter. Leading up to the divorce, he had opened up his own restaurant, and then post-divorce he managed J-Lo's restaurant after she asked him if he wanted to do it. Honestly, when it comes to the restaurant aspect of it all, him and J-Lo seem like they are on pretty good terms until 2002, but we'll get into that. Originally, it seemed like he just resented her for issues when it came to Hollywood. Noah has accused J-Lo of using her connections to prevent certain TV shows and people from working with him, tarnishing his reputation by allegedly spreading rumors and taking him to court and things like that. It turns out that the show he might have been talking about being barred from was American Idol when J-Lo was judging. Allegedly, he was planning to make an appearance, but due to his history with the star, it was stopped by her. Both parties have made it clear that they went into this marriage to stay together and tried to work things out. J-Lo said she was raised to be family-oriented, and Noah said that as a pioneer and the first of her husbands, he was a good husband because he believes in marriage, supported J-Lo at the beginning by dealing with her insecurities and anxieties. Noah recently shared his perspective on the beginning of the end. It all fell apart thanks to distance, cheating, and Sean Diddy Combs. J-Lo dated Diddy right after her divorce from Noah. They met while J-Lo was married to Noah, but when being interviewed about their relationship, both stars were adamant that nothing happened until J-Lo was divorced. J-Lo actually said she didn't even like Diddy at first. Clearly, Noah believes differently. He's hinted that he believes J-Lo was cheating on him with Diddy. In addition to working together on a music video, Diddy was involved with J-Lo's first album. At the time, when J-Lo was working on this album, she, according to Noah, had to be in either Miami or New York, but he had to stay in LA to open his new restaurant. He claimed that having the distance between them, plus J-Lo meeting future partners, Diddy and Mark Anthony as well, during that time, resulted in problems the couple just couldn't fix. Despite what sounds like a lot of problems, the couple said they split on good terms, though Noah was heartbroken over it. Him and J-Lo actually found their way back into a partnership with each other, although the context was a lot different. She was opening her own restaurant and needed a manager. Noah has a lot of experience in the field, plus even though they weren't together anymore, she still viewed him as family and wanted to take care of him. She apparently promised him that she wouldn't fire him from the position unless there was a good reason. Noah held that position for 6 months before being fired for a reason he never figured out. He claims that he tried to contact J-Lo, but she wasn't answering him, so he escalated the situation and sued for damages. It did go in his favor. He got $125,000. In comparison to later court dates, the amount of money will seem pretty small, I promise. The $125,000 came with a condition though. The man must never publicly speak about his past relationship with J-Lo negatively. But something must have happened then that stung deep, because Noah broke this condition only a few years later when he tried to publish a book that was exclusively about his romance with Jenny from the Block. It was going to include all the cheating allegations per some court documents, based on other comments from Noah in future interviews where he said that he would deal with J-Lo's insecurities, he hated being on the red carpet despite her wanting him to appear with her, and how the couple would often fight and pretend everything was okay. It's likely that the book was not going to be a kind reflection of J-Lo, and this is where the cover-ups started. J-Lo obviously did not want a book by her ex in rotation, so she blocked the release. Taking her ex to court, her representation argued that Noah breached their previous contract, that he would keep the details of their relationship under wraps. This time, the courts ruled in favor of Lopez, and she was awarded $545,000 total. $200,000 of that was damages, the rest for arbitration costs and attorney's fees per CBS News. It was also reported that everything related to the book was to be given to Lopez. It was at this hearing that a permanent injunction was issued. Noah could no longer criticize, cast in a negative light, or otherwise disparage or cause disparagement to Lopez. Despite the injunction, Noah would go on to attempt to release a movie about the relationship that would allegedly include home videos of Lopez. She sued for $10 million, won, but then was sued by a producer for that film for $10 million. That was dismissed though. It's clear that J-Lo really is not interested in the public finding out the details of her first marriage. Owani Noah's potential film about his relationship with Lopez was allegedly supposed to be a mockumentary or like a parody style film. I guess they thought that they would get around the rule against Noah that he had to refrain from disparaging J-Lo publicly. There was also the rumor that it was going to include some of over 11 hours of unseen private home footage of the couple. That was in pretty clear violation of the rules, so it makes sense that J-Lo and her team stepped in. She sued for $10 million for, per today, breach of contract, violation of publicity rights, invasion of privacy, and more. So that affected Noah and producer Meyer for that film, but the other producer of the film, Vasquez, was not included, so they hit back with their own lawsuit. They were suing JLo now, also for $10 million. They had been working on a different JLo related project, this one called I O JLo, and I believe that this one was supposed to be about the time that JLo and Noah went to court over his book about their relationship, where he violated their privacy agreement and then was required to pay her over $500,000. So this one was technically not about JLo and Noah's relationship in the past, but kind of like an extension of it. It was very confusing. Point is, because JLo had just very publicly sued and stopped her ex over not just his book, but also a potential movie, Vasquez's movie was just scrapped. In their words, their film became radioactive. Why would a studio risk financing something if there's a very real possibility that it will get shut down before making it in the air? The whole situation almost worked out in the producer's favor, but the whole case was based on a cease and desist letter that was ultimately ruled to be privileged legal communication that can't be used in court. With no case, it was dismissed, and JLo technically won. Despite how it all ended, from interviews Noah has done in the past, it seems like the couple was incredibly in love at first and had a sweet wedding ceremony. JLo has echoed this, however, she did look back on the marriage a few years ago, and her comments were interesting. She said that she doesn't really count her marriage to Noah since it was so short, and at that point in her life, she thought that if she married someone, that would mean there would always be someone there for her. Something she now realizes is a bad reason to get married. In a resurfaced interview from around 1999-ish, JLo mentioned that towards the end of her marriage, there were a lot of problems, something Noah inadvertently agreed with when he commented on the fact that Ben Affleck has a resting grumpy face when he's out with JLo. Noah claimed that he understood Affleck as him and JLo used to have a lot of arguments, but have to pretend everything was okay for the cameras only minutes later. JLo hinted at what some of the issues between the couple might have been in an interview after their divorce, saying that she believed that he was insecure when it came to finances and her being richer than he was, and she likely always would be. She also once suggested that he had wanted a relationship where JLo would stay home while he goes out and makes the money, but alas, she became a millionaire and paid for their home. As for JLo's current divorce from Ben Affleck, it's looking like that story is going very, very differently. Reports have said that the couple split has been going pretty well. They've agreed to part with what they each made during the marriage and what they had before. The only sticky parts are the home that they bought together, but with a team of experts working with them, that will likely be smoothed over in no time.
Jennifer Lopez just can't seem to keep a man, a relationship, or a marriage. It seems like every 3 years we're saying another one bites the dust for JLo. She's been married like 4 times and none have lasted, but why? It's not surprising that she's been in several high-profile relationships over the years. She's been very public with each and every one of them, so we get to see, the rise and fall. And while it's not uncommon for celebrities to experience relationship challenges, JLo's personal life, and in particular her love life, has always been subject to media scrutiny and speculation. Now, it's alarming to say the least that she hasn't been able to make any marriage work, and there could be various reasons as to why, they may not have lasted. Many people blame the intense media attention, saying that her relationships are always under a microscope, which obviously puts a lot of pressure on her and her partner. Now, some people have put blame on JLo's, very busy schedule, saying she's always go, 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 go between acting, singing, dancing, and any other business ventures that she's in. It seems like she's always away and always booked and busy, which, great if you don't have a marriage to maintain, but not so great if your partner is waiting for you constantly just to even go to dinner. Of course, many people have, just said that she's too selfish, too self-absorbed, and thinks that, the world revolves around her. But one person has actually flipped the script a little bit and said that she simply has a talent for picking the wrong men, saying that she needs a man who is going to be supportive and respectful of her time and commitments. Either way, it seems as though she struggles in this area of her life, and I'm actually curious to see what 2025 holds for her. If JLo is going to do one thing, it will be telling us all for decades now how she's from the Bronx. But the question that's, popped up over and over and over again over the the years is how authentic is she when she discusses this and makes claims that just don't seem to add up. JLo's 3-part self-funded album and documentary projects, This Is Me Now, the album, the movie, and The Greatest Love Story Never Told, the documentary, had some moments that went absolutely viral for the wrong reasons, of course. Now, in one clip while working out, she sees like her messy hair in the mirror and very like earnestly kind of references her days as Jenny on the block. She says, I like taking my hair out like this. It reminds me like, when I was 16, in the Bronx, running up and down the block, crazy little girl, who used to just be so wild with no limits, all dreams. The primary complaint here is that Lopez grew up in like a very nice part of the Bronx, and even still, she has lived in Hollywood for the last like 3 decades and is worth $400 million. So she should stop acting like she's repping the Bronx from what is probably like her private gym. Now, the funnier part about all of this is that this one particular scene apparently got rehearsed like 12 times. And so it wasn't natural and just like, off the top of her head like she wanted it to be portrayed. One person on TikTok claimed she and Lopez had gone to the same Catholic high school and accused Lopez of actually, using the Bronx to look human. She said, we both attended an all-girls high school in an Irish and Italian neighborhood, so you weren't running up and down the block. Another person said, girl, you haven't been to the Bronx since like 1993, please stop. With another person adding, she should just like build a community center in the Bronx, invest in cleaning it up, putting in like a nice park. She could even put a statue of herself for her ego and start, mentoring kids growing up in the Bronx. Someone even found an old photo of JLo with her hair from high school, and it wasn't giving crazy and running up and down no block. It was giving kept and clean private school energy. It was just another moment where like JLo tried way too hard to be relatable, but it backfired and made her look like even worse. JLo is allegedly one of the rudest celebrities to have any type of encounter with, and despite her claims of having a very humble beginning, apparently that did not instill a sense of humility in her. For years now, many servers and staff have reported, that JLo is tough to work for. In 2022, amid a TikTok storm of fans sharing negative encounters with Lopez, one woman took to the app to claim that the Jenny from the Block singer is rude to her drivers. Kayla claimed her father once worked for a company that Lopez often hired to provide drivers and said her dad would refuse to drive JLo after hearing stories about her poor temperament. Kayla alleged that JLo does not allow the drivers to look or to talk to her, and that even if the driver looks through like the rear view mirror, they could be subjected to like a scolding from the diva. Lastly, she also allegedly has a very specific rule. They cannot let her luggage touch the ground. So like, even if it's heavy, they must carry it. Even if it's got wheels, they must lift it. Like, I just don't understand, but okay. Several TikTok users have also accused Lopez of not tipping her wait staff, but 2 stories in particular take the cake, or in this case, I guess the tip. Now, in one now deleted TikTok, a woman who alleges that she served the star claimed Lopez and her ex-husband, Ben Affleck, are notorious for not tipping servers. She said Ben Affleck had, one of the worst reputations in the casino industry, saying, we hate him, he's cheap and like rude to other players and to staff. The woman claimed Lopez is known for being stingy, saying Lopez tells Affleck not to tip, so he doesn't tip anymore because apparently she has like instructed him not to. Another woman on TikTok, whose name is Penny, corroborated the notion of her, being anti-tipping. She claimed that a woman she previously employed at a tavern she managed in Las Vegas once shared a story with her about an experience she had while working at a casino. She claimed she spent one night serving Affleck as, he was at the poker table. She wasn't serving anybody else. And so Ben shockingly gave her an extremely gracious tip of like $10,000. However, once JLo caught wind of this big tip, she allegedly like snatched back the money. Apparently Affleck was like so mortified by this that he actually sent like a bouquet of flowers and a $25,000 tip like the next day. So it would seem as though Ben was like under her spell, and that's why he got, this bad rep for not tipping. I mean, I hope now that he's divorced and released from the shackles that she put on him that he now tips, but who knows? I guess time will tell, right? Now, these bad encounters don't stop there though. Reportedly, a flight attendant told Star Magazine that Lopez is an extreme diva and doesn't speak directly to people outside of her inner circle. So the United Airlines worker allegedly said to Lopez, "What can I get you to drink?" But Jennifer refused to even acknowledge. luggage. Like, she turned her head away and told her personal assistant, please tell him I'd like a Diet Coke. The flight attendant said that she wouldn't even look at him and that he was sad because, you know, she seems so sweet in all of her movies. Another woman on TikTok, Julia Wang, shared her story of meeting one of JLo's backup singers. Wang alleges the woman was part of like a Vegas concert that JLo was performing for. She said she was so mean to her backup singers and that if you were pretty or if you were a Latina, like game over. She hated you like automatically. Wang further claimed that JLo refused to talk or even look at any of them during their many hours of rehearsal time, you know, except for like an occasional eye roll or like a huff and puff. Wang continued to say, you know, she just acted like a bully. Can you imagine spending time with someone working in a closed setting every single day for months and this person never even acknowledges you or acts like you exist? She shared that JLo's demeanor does like a complete 180 when a man walks into the room. She only treats the woman poorly because she views them as competition. But the second a man enters, she's like all smiles, very sweet, very soft. And also, I know you may know about this incident, but it's worth revisiting quickly because of how horrible it is. Jennifer Lopez allegedly once got a hotel cleaner fired. Prey Dodage happened to be cleaning Lopez's hotel room in Germany during her 2012 world tour. As a big fan of Lopez, Dodage, you know, tried to ask the star for an autograph, only to have two of her assistants basically stop her soon after Prey was out of a job. She said in an interview, you know, a day later, the cleaning company that employed me at the hotel called and said that Miss Lopez had complained. I was fired right there on the phone because of an autograph. JLo received so much backlash for this one because she literally played the role of a hotel maid in her movie Made in Manhattan. And during the release of that film, you know, all of her press tours for it, she talked about the importance of being nice to everyone and how she could relate to her character in many ways in hopes that people respect anyone who finds themselves in that profession. Now, it's so ironic that years later she would not practice what she preaches and would end up getting this lady fired for like an autograph request. Like, that's insane to me. Nevertheless, all of these stories are like a dime a dozen. You know, there's like countless allegations against JLo and her very problematic behaviors. People are getting so sick of her kind of like diva-isms, and she may need to eat a big slice of like humble pie soon if she wants to gain some momentum back.
The Grammys, let's address it. What did JLo do that had people turning against her again? The first was her dress when she presented the award for Best Latin Pop Album to Shakira. I mean, like, people just didn't like it. The top was a black long sleeve, which is not that offensive. The problem was the skirt. It was a sparkly sheer fabric, and the top was really like bunched up on the skirt. It was just a lot of fabric at the top of it. The overwhelming sentiment was that it just wasn't visually appealing, but an unpopular fashion choice isn't the only thing that people are attacking the star for. Allegedly, at the pre-Grammy Gala, JLo was chewing gum. And that is where the sentence ends. Well, she was chewing gum with her mouth open and talking to people. A video was captured of JLo speaking to someone at the event while chewing gum, and for this, she was called classless, tacky, and mannerless. When I first read this story, I thought, oh, was she in the middle of a red carpet interview? No, she was just walking around the party and interacting with people. It's also hilarious that people are reacting to her chewing gum like it's a criminal offense because JLo was actually almost charged with a criminal offense over the holidays in 1999. This was a major story when it dropped a couple decades ago, but it's kind of faded into the background since. But it's gained traction again because of the person that JLo was taken into custody alongside. None other than her boyfriend at the time, Sean Diddy Combs. Diddy is currently accused of numerous horrible things, and he has been held for the past few months awaiting a trial that will take place this year. But that's not the crime that JLo was connected to, of course. That crime was a result of a night of clubbing in December of 1999. At a club, Diddy and another patron got into a physical altercation that resulted in weapons firing. Diddy and JLo fled the scene, engaged in a car chase with local police. JLo was detained for quite a long time, almost over 12 hours, but eventually released. Diddy did go to court and was cleared of all charges in the end. Now, it wasn't until recently that JLo's participation in the altercation went under a microscope. She has since been accused of being the one that brought the weapon into the club when it was originally believed that she had never touched it. This new info came from a lawsuit filed against Diddy last year, but it included a description of the alleged moments before the raid on Diddy's home. Jones Jr. claimed that that day, Diddy had been showing off his weapons, took responsibility responsibility for the club altercation in 1999, and that JLo was the person that carried the weapon into the club and handed it to Diddy when the fight started. This statement does contradict accounts taken at the time of the event, so it's unclear who is actually telling the truth right now or how innocent JLo was in the end. The internet certainly decided that she wasn't innocent at last year's Met Gala. TikTok sounded the alarm after a video of JLo on the Met Gala steps went viral last year. A short interaction turned into a huge online hate campaign, and here's what happened. Annika Reed was invited to the gala that year as an interviewer. She would end up posting clips from her interviews to her TikTok page. And for the most part, the interactions were very positive with all the other celebrities, except for the star of today's video, JLo. Watching this video back, I don't think JLo was being that rude, but I am the minority in the conversation. The internet and comment section tore the singer to bits. Here's what happened, form your own judgment. There were some clips of JLo smiling and posing on the carpet, and then as she's walking up the final set of stairs to the top, that's when Reed asked her question to JLo. She had to kind of shout it a bit because JLo wasn't stopping for interviews at that time. She asked standard red carpet question, "Who are you wearing tonight?" JLo, still ascending the stairs, glanced over, said a quick, smileless Schiaparelli before continuing on. Reed's caption on the video didn't overly convey that she felt slighted by JLo, but the comment section told a very different story. People were calling the performer rude. One person said that Reed got the JLo experience, and overall, they weren't happy. I think JLo's less than enthusiastic response in comparison to other celebrities that evening worked against her, although she was actively making sure her and her dress made it up the Met Gala stairs without completely toppling over. The biggest red flag Jennifer Lopez is hiding or trying to hide from the public would have to be her ex-husband, not Ben Affleck. I'm talking about the original Owani Noah. Once you stack up all the evidence against this man, red can be his color. Of course, all this is subjective, and divorce does affect everyone differently, and it's not an easy thing to get divorced, but Noah's behavior over the past few decades hasn't always been kind. It all started back in the 90s when JLo married Noah. They were married about 11 months before getting divorced. Now, there was quite a bit of lead up to the divorce, it appears. JLo's career was taking off. She had been a dancer on a TV show and then had great success with the biopic Selena, in which she played Selena. Noah at the time was also an entertainer, he still is, but mainly he worked in the restaurant industry. He actually met JLo when he was a waiter, and then over the course of their marriage, he opened up his own restaurant. There were always signs that things weren't perfect between the pair. Noah claims that he wasn't always a big fan of the spotlight, he refused to attend red carpets with JLo. He also once claimed that JLo was cheating on him with Diddy. JLo dated Diddy after her divorce. The pair worked together on a music video for a Diddy track and felt a connection, but have said that they didn't pursue it at the time because JLo was married. Still, Noah claims that the pair did get involved. He says it happened when JLo was putting together her first album and they were separated a lot. Noah had to stay in one city for his restaurant and JLo was flying back and forth between two other cities. Noah says that he would try and see her whenever he could, but the separation did more harm than anything else. JLo told a different story as to how the relationship broke down in a few interviews after the divorce. One time, she made a comment about how her financial status was just better than Noah's and likely always would be, and that was hard for the man to accept. She said that he was the type to prefer that he were the breadwinner and that she were home washing dishes, yet she was the breadwinner for the couple and was the one paying for many of the things the couple enjoyed, like their home, for example. Noah did not take the split very well at all. It's almost 3 decades later and he is still talking about JLo and their marriage and how it hurt a lot. I don't doubt that the divorce was hard, but when I say he hasn't let it go, I mean it. When JLo got back with Affleck, Noah was there to say he didn't see the relationship lasting. When they got divorced, he made a statement. He's made the claim that he was the pioneer when it comes to JLo's marriages. There might be a reason why the pioneer is still seemingly held up over the 11-month marriage. He was really into it, sure, but there was also an incident that happened after the divorce that made things go from bad to worse. Jennifer Lopez was opening her own restaurant, and she needed someone in charge. She knew Noah, he had a lot of experience in the industry, she still cared for him, so she asked if he wanted to do it. She promised to take care of him and that she wouldn't fire him without a good reason. Things were fine until a few months after opening when Noah was fired, and when he tried to ask why, allegedly, no answer. Since J-Lo essentially broke her promise, he took her to court, and it actually ended in his favor. But that was the last time that he would have the courts in favor of him when it came to him and J-Lo. When he and J-Lo broke up, there was an agreement that he wouldn't share any damaging personal details about the singer and their relationship. After the restaurant thing though, it seems Noah's gloves were off and he was ready to swing with a book about his relationship with J-Lo. J-Lo's team blocked it, of course, because it went against the agreement. Court documents say it was also apparently going to insinuate J-Lo cheated. Noah did owe J-Lo money after that incident. Despite all that, he tried again attempting to release a parody movie that was allegedly going to include a look at the couple's home life, but J-Lo didn't want the book. Of course she wouldn't want a movie. It looks like Noah and his team thought that they could get away with a movie easier if it was a parody, because technically it's not like J-Lo being shown on the screen, but it's a clear parody of J-Lo. It was shut down anyway. At the time, one of the movie's producers was working on their own J-Lo project that, in their words, turned radioactive after the lawsuit about Noah's movie was done. I mean, no studio wanted to finance something that might never make it off the ground or will be sued into oblivion. She sued J-Lo over it, but it was eventually dropped. So, after a few cheating accusations, lawsuits, and comments on all her relationships over the years, it's not hard to see why Jenny from the block wants to leave this man in her past.
Could you imagine your own wife possibly being a part of an alleged illicit crime ring? Ben Affleck apparently can, because supposedly he has been given tapes that have Jennifer Lopez herself in them when the police raided Sean Combs' home earlier this year. If you are new to this channel and have not been keeping up with the celebrity gossip, y'all better strap in, because it gets messy. A quick rundown of why these tapes are so important and why Lopez may be facing some serious charges. As of this year, Sean Combs is held at the Metropolitan Detention Center for quite the list of crimes. These include trafficking, racketeering, and illicit intimate relations that all supposedly happened during his Diddy parties, to which these portions of the parties were called freak-offs. The Diddy parties were an iconic event to be a part of, which were hosted over a span of literal decades, from the 90s all the way to 2020. They were originally labeled as white parties, where people would follow a strict dress code of wearing all white, to which these ended around 2006. However, much more apparently went down at these parties, to which a photographer who worked with Diddy for 20 years named Francesca stated she hadn't seen anything out of the ordinary when it came to the outside section of the party, but only specific people were allowed inside of the house. Who these people were, however, are still unknown, and she definitely wasn't one of them. She recalls a moment during one of his parties where Sean Combs was supposedly with a girl she had never seen before, and so, as she was hired to do, decided to take a photo of the two of them together. Sean Combs noticed this, however, and told his bodyguard to get her camera. Fonseca was surprised by this because in the entirety of those 2 decades she worked for him, never once did he ask for her camera. When she finally got it back, she noted how no photos were deleted, which was probably a smart move considering how many flags that would have raised. When Sean Combs' house was raided, there were a few notable things they discovered, such as narcotics, 1,000 bottles of baby oil, and alleged tapes hidden away. These supposed tapes apparently have information about what actually went down during these freak-offs, and that's where Jennifer Lopez comes in. Apparently the tapes that Ben Affleck was given after the raid of Diddy's home contain her being a part of the incident that happened in a nightclub back in 1999. Apparently, musician Moses Shine Barrow took the fall for Diddy during an intense scene that was going down, but J-Lo had lied, saying that Barrow was the one that started the incident in the first place, and that inevitably ruined his career by sending him to prison. Affleck even makes the comment of, they go raid Puffy's house, and they get all of these videos of J-Lo doing this and J-Lo doing that. You're just gonna keep us in the dark like that, Ben? Come on, details, details! These tapes are apparently the reason for the strain on their relationship, and mayhaps might just be the reason for their divorce. A former CEO of Death Row Records states this: I'm quite sure they, FBI, probably called. It's a white man who got respect in the white world. I'm quite sure they said, we want to show you some things about your wife. Lopez and Diddy's relationship was a quick one, lasting only for about 2 years from 1999 to 2001, which was eerily around the time all these allegations had taken place. Diddy even tried to get back with her at one point too. I mean, yeah, it's frickin' Jennifer Lopez in the 90s, I would too. It's been reported that since then, Affleck has moved out of their $60 million million home in Beverly Hills, and supposedly they're trying to keep it on the down low about them selling it too. The former CEO claims he is not surprised that Ben Affleck wants out ASAP after this. It's been no shock that Jennifer has been really stirring the pot when it came to her own publicity over the past year. From spitting gum in an assistant's hand to getting an employee at a hotel fired for a simple autograph. From what we know about Ben, his slate has been cleaner than hers. At least that's what the former CEO says. He ain't tripping off paparazzi. He's living his life. He got his own team. She done brought all that extra stuff out, and now that man, he won out. I don't blame him. He's got his own image to look out for too in this industry. And he has. And he's been working towards recovery with his own demons. But Lopez apparently didn't think that one through towards the end of last year. Supposedly, she was extremely insensitive to his problems when she made a launch for her own adult drink brand DeLola, when she had just recently walked down the aisle with Affleck. Lopez apparently doesn't even drink herself to help preserve her skin, which was confirmed to InStyle. Lopez was quick to backpedal though and say she only drinks for special occasions, since there are photos of her with a cocktail in her hand. Quoted herself. I know that a lot of people have been talking about, oh, she doesn't even drink, what's she doing with a cocktail out? And to tell you the truth, that was true for a long time. I didn't drink. A few years back, as you will see from several photos of me over the past 10, maybe 15 years, I have been having the occasional cocktail. And yet still hasn't addressed the tone-deaf launch when it came to her now ex-husband just made it about her. She's supposedly trying to regain her image after this mess unfolded, especially after one of her recent tours. This Is Me Now completely tanked in ticket sales. A source told the Daily Mail she is focused on her own work and wants 2025 to be the year she gets back to being herself. She isn't actively looking to date right now and is still processing losing Ben again. She, like most people, would love to have love in her life again. If something presents itself, then obviously life and love find a way. But she isn't looking to get into any new relationships. I'm curious to see what 2025 brings for our diva, and maybe, hopefully, we'll get a new change from her for the better. Aside from the Diddy case, something else has been supposedly exposed about our diva this year. I've talked about it before in another video on Inform Overload, but for those of you watching for the first time, there's a rumor going around that Jenny from the block has never stepped foot onto a block in her life. Well, an H&R block maybe. Jennifer is being slammed for supposedly lying about her own empire that she built. Lopez really milked, and still does, her past history about growing up in the Bronx, and how times were extremely tough for her as a child. Which, before, rags to riches stories were a huge cash grab, because everyone wanted that opportunity to happen in their life. Now, I'm still waiting for mine. A few parts of her upcoming documentary, The Greatest Love Story Ever Told, which delves into the life of her and Ben throughout these 20 years. Yikes. After with what we know now, shines a little light in her past. And the specific video that has been speculating around the internet is the one where she is in front of a mirror playing with her hair. It reminds me like when I was 16 in the Bronx, running up and down the block. Crazy little girl who used to F and be wild and no limits. All dreams. Yeah, this did not end well on social media and sparked a huge backlash on her image. A TikToker by the name of Silaminian calls her out. We weren't running up and down the block like that, even as a kid. What block were you running up and down on? Do you have any footage of this? Pictures of you being in the Bronx? Being a normal child? Of course, things might have changed in the last few decades with people choosing to stay inside more, technology advancements, rise in crime. Yeah, I wouldn't be running up and down a block either anymore. However, another TikToker, Pictures by Angela, whose video has now since been removed, I believe, has exposed Jenny from the block to have attended a private high school, specifically the Preston High. I saw your high school photo. You did not have hair like that. We also both attended an all-girls Catholic high school in an Irish and Italian neighborhood, so you weren't running up and down the block, she states. To remind you those who have returned for more Jenny videos, this school's tuition per year, as of today, is $12,395, and this doesn't include the general fee, senior luncheon, graduation fee. A user by the name of Carenza even commented, I can't explain it, but every time J-Lo pops up and she's talking about the Bronx, she gives me Michael Scott vibes, and now I can't unsee it. That's not a good character to be compared with either. Let's see if she really chooses to keep her word in the following year. I'm all about people changing for the better, but fool me 5, 10, 16 times, shame on me. Your image is everything in the A-list world. And man, has it become distorted for you, Lopez. Try and prove us wrong. I'll definitely be waiting.
JLo has made many enemies in her world, with many being those who work for her. They've leaked some awful details about her and shown just how horrible she is. Now, Gilly Liar had been a longtime assistant to JLo before she quit and went to work for Mariah Carey in 2013. It's been said that the main reason why she quit was because of JLo's boyfriend at the time, Casper Smart. Apparently, Casper was allowed to do whatever he wanted in the house, and this included him mistreating the staff members. That upset Gilly, a source told Radar Online. Casper always insisted that Jennifer's staff call him Mr. Smart, and even demanded that Gilly get him drinks. So it appears that JLo let her assistant get disrespected, which is just not okay at all, and it shows what kind of person she really is. Then there's the time when she got everyone to turn on her longtime makeup artist Scott Barnes. There had been a leak on JLo's team as they exposed to the press that JLo was planning on getting married to Mark Anthony. Now JLo claimed that Scott was one of the employees who betrayed her, so she fired him and made everyone ignore him. The thing was, they never asked him about it though, they just fired him. Now during an interview on the Jeff Probst show, he claimed that he didn't know anything about the wedding and wasn't the leak, but JLo's team still shunned him. Scott said, "Nobody would talk to me, it was like I had the plague." Then, when the truth came out that Scott did not leak the news or even know about the wedding ahead of time, he received a phone call from Jen, who Scott claimed said the following. It was like, "Hey, it was a big misunderstanding, you know we have a lot of stuff coming up and I really miss you, so let's just get back to work." Although Scott was very gracious about the whole thing, it appears that JLo did not apologize to him, and it's just crazy to me that he went back working for her and that no one put a stop to her behavior. Now, near the end of last year, Elon Musk was speaking on the Joe Rogan Experience when he began talking about JLo's criticism of the recently elected president and his remarks about Puerto Ricans. Elon then brought up JLo's personal history with Diddy as she dated him from 1999 to 2001. He said JLo was like his ex-girlfriend and now all of a sudden she's warning people about this person, but how many people did she warn about Diddy? Oh, 0. Maybe we shouldn't trust her opinion. He added people in the music industry had to know that Diddy was doing these things. Where's that accountability? They had to know. Now, Ojani Noah, JLo's ex-husband, claimed that she was involved in Diddy's freak-offs that came up in his federal indictment. "I'm not on the list," Ojani wrote on Instagram. To those people and media outlets asking if I ever went or participated in that piece of Diddy's freak-off parties, no and no, never. But my ex-wife, Jennifer Lopez, aka JLo, did. Ask her. But in a shocking turn of events, one of her past assistants has come to her defense. Thea D'Souza, who worked with JLo on the 2002 film Made in Manhattan, posted a statement on Threads that said, "If you knew Jennifer Lopez, if you ever worked with her like I did, or if you were close with people who are like family to her like I am, you would know she did not have any idea about Diddy. She barely drinks, she's not a partier, she isn't a good time girl, she's a workaholic who uplifts women, and who was charmed by him for a brief time in her life." Now, Thea emphasized that JLo does not deserve to be conflated with Diddy's shocking and criminal misdeeds. So, Thea claims that JLo is innocent in all of this, but she's the only one who's spoken out. You see, JLo is refusing to speak about her ex Diddy. She walked out of an autograph signing at AFI Fest 2024 when someone in the crowd asked her if she had any comments about Diddy and the allegations. The US Mirror tabloid reported that the singer left immediately, despite fans' pleas that she stay. And don't expect her to say anything. In May, after video footage of Diddy hurting his ex-girlfriend Cassie Ventura was brought to light, JLo stayed silent. Now, many of Diddy's other exes have spoken out against him, but not JLo. Though tabloid sources claim that the Cassie footage disgusted her, JLo was silent on the subject and has stayed that way. Sources are saying that Jen is not going to address the accusations or take time to talk about them because it's not her story story to tell. If an interviewer brought it up, she would cross that path as and when it happens, but she won't address it publicly and will not put herself in that conversation on purpose. Then there was the fact when J-Lo and Marc Anthony's twins needed nannies, J-Lo gave them a grueling schedule. Now normally people who make a lot of money, like J-Lo for example, have numerous people who help them with everyday tasks, especially childcare, as it can be so difficult. But Jennifer expected one nanny not only to take care of both twins, but to work 16-hour days, 7 days a week, as an insider told the National Enquirer. Now unsurprisingly, the first nanny she hired left after just a week of working for her. They hired her second nanny, who was wonderful with the twins, but she couldn't take working such long hours without a break, a source said. So then she quit after just a week as well. And yeah, I don't blame them for quitting. I mean, that schedule is just unreasonable. Then in 2022, a girl named Kyla posted a TikTok saying that her dad worked for a company that J-Lo would hire for drivers. But apparently he heard so many bad stories about the star that he never wanted to be her driver. It said that J-Lo does not allow her drivers to look or talk to her. She's also so strict that if the driver looks through the rearview mirror and makes eye contact with her, she will freak out. Not to mention that she has a crazy rule that her luggage cannot touch the ground. Now it appears that this story is real though, because one of J-Lo's former drivers sued her. Hakab Menokian claims he started driving for J-Lo and Marc Anthony in 2005. He said that the three of them had such a great bond that they convinced him to shut down his company and work exclusively as J-Lo's personal head of security and transportation. He claimed that J-Lo agreed to pay him more than $200,000 per year, but things went downhill in 2011. This is when Hakab claims he was forced to spend time with J-Lo's manager, Benny Medina. He claims that Benny hated him and even found a way to convince J-Lo to demote him, taking away his security responsibilities and making him J-Lo's LA driver, and that was it. Now he says that he was basically forced to resign and then sued J-Lo and Benny for unspecified damages. J-Lo then countersued him for extortion, but her suit was dismissed in December 2012. Now the two eventually settled on undisclosed terms, but that honestly just sounds like a horrible situation. And finally, one of J-Lo's backup singers, Julia Wang, posted on TikTok how horrible it was to work with the star. She said she was so mean to her backup singers. If you were pretty or if you were Latina, like game over, she hated you. Julia also said that J-Lo refused to talk or even look at any of the singers during their rehearsals, except for an occasional eye roll or scoff, which is just crazy. She acted like a bully. Can you imagine spending time with someone working in a closed setting every single day for months, and this person never even acknowledging you or acting like you exist? She asked. And honestly, no, I can't. That sounds like a horrible work environment. Now she also shared that J-Lo changes the way she acts when there are men present, and Julia added that she only treats the women poorly because she views them as competition. It seems like if you have anything to do with J-Lo, it would just be horrible.
Jennifer Lopez's new documentary is getting some mixed reviews, some believing she exposed too much of her personal life with Ben Affleck. First off, we see Ben talk about how he felt exposed after Jennifer shared a private book of their emails and letters. 20 years ago, I fell in love with the love of my life, and during that time I was making an album called This Is Me Then, Lopez is heard telling a crowd in the documentary. I hadn't made an album since then. Years later, we got back together and I was very inspired. The inspiration came after her, quote, Bible she calls it, which was the book Affleck gave her on their first Christmas together. It is every letter and every email that we wrote to each other from 20 years ago to today, she says, sharing that he titled the, quote, Bible, The Greatest Love Story Never Told by Jennifer Lopez and Ben Affleck, 2001 to 2021 and counting. Lopez placed the book in the studio and let her collaborators go through it for song inspiration. To Ben's surprise, Ben appears shocked and surprised to find out that Lopez shared this private book he gave her with everyone in the studio. When talking to the artist working with Jennifer Lopez, Affleck discovers that they gave him a nickname. I was like, you've been showing all the musicians these letters? Affleck says in the documentary, and they were like, yeah, we call you Pen Affleck. And I was like, oh my god. In the documentary, we also learned that Ben had some serious reservations of his love story being shared so publicly. I did really find the beauty and the poetry and the irony in the fact that it's the greatest love story never told, he tells the cameras, and if you're making a record about it, that seems kind of like you're telling it. In another scene, Affleck expresses how it was an adjustment for him to have her share their private life with the entire world. Jen was really inspired by this experience, which is how artists do their work, he says. I certainly do the same things, but things that are private, I have always felt are sacred and special because, in part, they're private. So this was something of an adjustment for me. Ultimately, Ben comes to terms with Lopez's project after realizing it's not all about their relationship. I don't really love being in the making of a documentary about my personal life, which is why I'm so relieved that I'm not really, well, it seems like I might be in this, but I'm not really, he says. I was worrying for no reason. The movie wasn't about me. It was about the ability to love yourself, and that love story is a lot effing harder to find than Prince Charming. Next, we learned Ben had to make compromises when they got back together. Getting back together, I said, listen, one of the things I don't want is a relationship on social media, Ben says. Then I sort of realized it's not a fair thing to ask her. It's sort of like, you're gonna marry a boat captain, and you're like, well, I don't like the water. He added, we're just two people with kind of different approaches trying to learn to compromise. Next, we learned in the documentary that some A-list stars declined to be in the movie musical about her life that accompanies the documentary. In the documentary, Lopez reveals Anthony Ramos, the In the Heights star, was offered the role of her significant other in the rebound scene of the movie. He was going to do the rebound number with me and the glass house, she tells wardrobe supervisor Sean Barton during rehearsals, and he was like, I'm friends with Mark Anthony. Lopez was married to Mark Anthony from 2004 to 2014, and the pair share 16-year-old twins. The rebound scene that Anthony was supposed to be in shows Lopez in a toxic relationship with a drunken partner. The singer, however, never specifically mentions who the song and scene is about. We also see Jennifer crying about a past relationship and how it negatively impacted her self-esteem. She gets emotional as she recalls a relationship in which she says she was, quote, manhandled before she hit rock bottom and realized it was time to get out. Though she doesn't name the ex, singer and actress speaks candidly through tears about the experience and how it affected her going forward. Being thrown around and manhandled is not fun, she explains. I was never in a relationship where I got beat up, thank God, but I've definitely been manhandled in a couple of other unsavory things. Jen doesn't reveal who treated her that way, but her long career in showbiz has involved plenty of high-profile relationships in addition to her marriage now to Ben Affleck. Jennifer shares more about her past toxic relationships by saying, quote, there were people in my life who said I loved you and then didn't do things that were kind of in line with the word love. You have to hit rock bottom where you're in situations that are so uncomfortable and so painful that you finally go, I don't want this anymore. A therapist said to me, what if this was your daughter? What would you do? And it was so clear, she called. I was like, I'd tell her, get out of there and never look back. But for me, it was so clouded and so complicated with so much of my past and my own pain and hurt and dysfunction that I couldn't see clearly. It was like looking through fog. Jane Fonda had some honest words with Jennifer in the documentary while on a phone call with her. I want you to know that I don't entirely know why, but I feel invested in you and Ben, and I really want this to work, tells Jen of Ben Affleck on a call filmed for the documentary. However, this is my concern. Like, it feels too much like you're trying to prove something instead of just living it. You know, either every other photograph is kissing and the two of you hugging. Jennifer shrugs it off and laughs though. That's just us living our life, says. But Jane Fonda did have a point, and if Jennifer listened to her, it may have saved her from receiving horrendous reviews online after both movies came out. Some saying the movie musical is the worst movie ever made. One reviewer made a list called The Reasons Why This Sucked. I had no idea what was going on in the movie. There was no theme. Actually, there were too many themes. memes. There were so many talented artists who were used more as props. They should have had bigger roles. This movie seems like an ode to herself for nailing down a man. It's not really about love. It's a movie about conquering a man. It's basically telling everybody that other relationships that her and Ben had were just filler until they could be together again. Her kids and Ben's kids are going to be watching this. Do they really need to know how much she loves making love to their dad? We all know it's not her voice singing those songs, and if it is, auto-tune should get a lot of credit, the reviewer says. The reviewer finishes off by saying she's narcissistic, way too in love with herself, and for people clicking more than 2 stars, did you actually watch it? Or are you just clicking on 5 stars because you love this egomaniac? Thoughts in the documentary on former co-star Jane Fonda's phone call, saying Jane is still very protective of her and felt like you're putting yourself out there to get beat up again. Jane Fonda's concerns resurfaced when she thinks about photos of the couple at the Grammy Awards, in which Ben Affleck's disinterested expression became the target of memes galore and gossip about the pair's relationship. I get real scared, you know, with all that about the Grammys, and he looks unhappy, and I'm like, oh my god, what's happening? Fonda told Jennifer. Nothing, lied. Jennifer Lopez also revealed she got multiple no thank yous from more fellow celebs that she hoped would appear with her in the movie. Taylor Swift, whom Jennifer joined on stage during Taylor's Red Tour 2013, declined, according to Today.com. Jason Momoa, Jennifer Coolidge, Lizzo, Vanessa Hudgens, Ariana Grande, and Snoop Dogg also allegedly declined. Khloe Kardashian was another potential celebrity cameo who dropped out. I don't want to force anybody to this who go, it's gonna be fun, Verse says in the film. Nobody wants to say no to me, Benny. I get that, she tells her manager, Benny Medina. But when an actor doesn't like a script good enough or is worried about it, that is what they'll say. Jennifer, who ultimately put $20 million of her own money in visual album, also admits in the film that the whole project made her nervous too. People are scared to put out there. I get it, she says. Took me a long time. I'm scared. I don't act like I'm scared. That's the secret to my whole effing career. Looking back on her childhood, Lopez also reveals that she felt very ignored by her dad and that her mother was always the center of attention. She got used to being around people who acted that way. Jen felt emotionally neglected as a child, Ben Affleck says. He continues drawing parallels between her longing for approval and his own past struggles with alcoholism. It's a hard thing to look at somebody whose professional life is wildly successful and who on Instagram looks like they're living the happiest life in the world. The thing you discover is there isn't enough alcohol in all the liquor stores in the world to fill up that thing. In Jennifer's case, I don't think there's enough followers or movies or records or any of that stuff. Part of you still feels a longing and pain. Ultimately, that's the work that you gotta do on your own.